There are so many videos on YouTube about how the rich use debt to get richer, or the difference between good debt and bad debt. And while it's true to an extent, it creates this misconception that taking on good debt creates wealth. Good debt relies on the concept of financial leverage and can be a powerful financial tool. But what's often left out of that conversation is the amount of risk that comes with it. While debt can accelerate wealth, it can just as easily magnify losses. The ones who use this effectively may also have certain other advantages, like access to lower interest rates, financial safety nets, unique expertise, or teams of advisors. So, what are good debts? Good debt is money you borrow to buy assets, things that are expected to go up in value or generate income. It could be something like a mortgage. It is a good debt since a house may appreciate in value or generate rental income. Bad debts are the opposite, like high-interest credit cards used for shopping or vacations. So, what's leverage in this case? Leverage in finance refers to the use of debt or other financial instruments to amplify the potential return on investments. It can be better understood with an example. Let's say you buy stocks worth $100,000 with your savings. The value of those stocks rose to $110,000 after a year. Your return on investment, ROI, is $10,000 or 10%. This would be your return without any leverage. Let's say, in addition to you buying stocks worth $100,000 with your savings, you take a loan of $100,000 at 5% interest and use it to purchase more shares. You now have $200,000 in shares. After a year, the value of the shares increased the same as before. Your portfolio is now worth $220,000, an increase of 10%. From this $220,000, you pay off your bank loan, principal and interest, of $105,000. You are now left with $115,000. Given that you started with $100,000 in savings, your ROI now is $15,000 or 15%. You've been able to increase your return by simply leveraging debt to buy more assets. Your debt-to-equity ratio here is 1-to-1. So what if you increase your debt-equity ratio? Let's say you now borrow $900,000, making your debt-to-equity ratio 9-to-1. You will now be able to purchase $1 million in stock, which after a year becomes $1.1 million. You pay back the $900,000 along with interest of $45,000. You now have $155,000, indicating a return on investment of $55,000 or 55%, even though the shares you purchased only went up by 10. This is the power of financial leverage. So, what's the catch? Good debt isn't being more financially prudent. You're actually just increasing your risk. In the last example, if instead of a 10% increase, the shares dropped by 10%, it would wipe out your savings and you'd still owe $45,000. The reason this looks appealing is because traditional measures of returns like return on investment or IRR ignore risk. It would be more meaningful to use measures of risk-adjusted returns like Sharpe ratios. Another thing you might have noticed is that this works because our borrowing rate of 5% is lower than our expected returns of 10%. Our success at using leverage depends on the difference between our borrowing rate and the expected rate of return. Having a lower borrowing rate reduces the amount of return required to break even, making it less risky for the borrower. Access to lower interest rates would depend on the borrower's creditworthiness. Larger borrowers would have the advantage here. Borrowers with access to alternate income streams or collateral can borrow larger amounts at lower interest rates, making this strategy more effective to those with access to cheap credit. We could also look at the other side of the equation with returns. In this example, we're considering an equal chance that the asset may go up or down. But if the borrower here has any unique expertise in the asset, it can skew the probability of positive returns in his favor. This expertise may be simply having industry experience in the business and taking a loan to set it up, or more questionable advantages like having non-public information about the factors influencing the asset's price. In this example, we've described an example of using debt to buy an asset, which results in an amplification of gains or losses. But what if you could restructure this so that you can limit your downside while increasing your exposure to the upside? You can achieve this using more complex instruments like derivatives. Large financial institutions can negotiate these types of financial contracts like MBS and CDOs, something we saw quite widely leading up to the 2008 financial crisis. One of the prominent offenders here was Lehman Brothers, that amassed a leverage ratio of over 30x. At bankruptcy, they had an estimate of $691 billion in assets with only $22.5 billion in shareholders' equity. A mere 3% drop was enough to collapse the fourth largest investment bank in the United States. 2008 saw the collapse of a number of financial institutions despite them buying what you would call good debt. This framing conceals actual issues with using debt, focusing only on the happy scenarios, and gives people the idea that they are using a financial hack when leveraging. Understanding leverage as increasing risk also helps better understand businesses. Businesses generating higher profits may not necessarily be better businesses, but simply using their capital structure to make the numbers look better. They might not be able to withstand it when the economic scenario isn't as favorable. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, click that like button and subscribe for more videos on financial concepts.